am chatting with Jonathan Burg, who is the SVP of Revenue over at New Breed. Hey, Jonathan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really grateful to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into some of the topics. For those who may be unfamiliar with you or with New Breed, can you just do a brief overview of your background as well as for New Breed?
Yeah. So I am really a revenue leader who started my career in demand gen and operations. And so very early days when intent data and cloud CRM and marketing automation was really coming on to the scene. And I just absolutely fell in love with understanding how to use technology, how to use data and processes and automation to deliver inspirational and really solid content to the right people at the right time. And that was sort of like the foundation of my career. And I was really lucky. I got mentored by some of the best in the business. People who literally founded Serious Decisions, now Forrester, and some of the most sort of celebrated B2B technology marketers in the space. And that sort of accelerated my career. I ended up, I think because of that, ended up moving into the CMO ranks, and now recently, probably about 4 years ago now, transitioned into a CRO role. So every day I wake up and I think about how can I not optimize the customer lifecycle to deliver value and create value for not only the organizations that I work with, but for the community in which we serve as well. So New Breed, I was once a customer of New Breed's. They helped me do some fantastic work on HubSpot, as well as some demand generation and revenue operations work. And one thing led to another, and stars aligned. And then I ended up joining the organization as the SVP of Revenue. And New Breed is HubSpot's #1 solutions partner. So we deliver tech-enabled services that help build a really strong infrastructure around HubSpot. So we work for the HubSpot ecosystem, so HubSpot at the core, and then apps and extended capabilities like 6sense and other solutions that we help support. And then we apply services on top of that, tech-enabled services on top of that, to drive growth and help organizations to unlock meaningful growth. And that's really our mission, is to unlock meaningful growth for our customers.
I love that. And you're actually doing a talk here at 6sense talking about the go-to-market foundations for account-based marketing. Can we get in the weeds and talk about that journey? Because we're in the conversations right now, Q4 planning, Q4 budgets. What are some of the tips and tricks as we talk about go-to-market foundations for ABM that demand gen marketers and go-to-market leaders should be thinking of as we're planning for 2025?
Yeah, it's a great time for sure. I just came off of the back of Inbound, where I had the opportunity to deliver a couple of different presentations. One of those was around revenue planning boot camp, and one of the biggest call to actions that I had was start now, right? Create a project plan, bring a cross-functional team together, make sure that you're really thinking holistically around the customer lifecycle. I'm going to be hosting that session digitally in a few weeks, but really critical to really take these investments into consideration as you're moving into Q4 and 25. So one of the things that we're seeing right now is there's a bit of a shift in the market. I think it's really positive that organizations are really thinking through how to gain go-to-market fit. In years past, particularly in the HubSpot ecosystem, I think everybody really anchored themselves on everything was inbound, right? Like inbound was one of the most primary go-to-market models that we saw. So this year we actually asked our survey participants what their primary go-to-market model is. And only 10% said that inbound was their primary go-to-market model.
Interesting.
But we also found that organizations most likely were pairing inbound with another go-to-market motion, with outbound target account, customer-led growth, and account-based motions as some of the top in the list. And so I think it's this disruption around tech capabilities, how buyers are buying, and what it takes to actually engage your audience that is driving to this shift. So as we look at sort of that transition, and we're looking at more organizations understanding that we need alignment around the metrics that matter, It's not necessarily MQLs, right? It's around what we found in the state of HubSpot. It's around profitability. It's around net revenue retention. It's around engaging the appropriate accounts to drive opportunity creation. And really, organizations now are using the technology and the data actually to engage those end users. So that's a little bit about what we're seeing. As it comes to taking an account-based approach, there's sort of like two secret ingredients that I like to think about and applying those to three key areas. So one is around alignment and integration. So making sure that you're creating alignment across not just the marketing team and the demand gen and marketing ops team, but around marketing, sales, customer success, product, and finance as well. So making sure that you have the whole organization aligned around that go-to-market motion and then the metrics that matter associated with it.
Yep.
And then making sure that you've got integration around people, around process, and around technology, right? So if you have aligned and integrated approach to your ABM and your go-to-market motion, and you're applying that to your ideal customer profile, your target account and your buying groups, as well as your technology and your data. And then thirdly, you're activating against that through AI and personalized approaches. That's really where you can create ABM success.
I love that. Those are really great insights. You were talking about the results from the State of HubSpot report, and one thing you touched on was the different go-to-market motions about integrating inbound with others such as outbound or like account-based. How would a company decide which one is the right go-to-market motions for them?
Yeah. So I've followed the research of a couple of different groups that I take very serious. One of them is Winning by Designs.
Yeah.
Really, really cool organization that publishes a lot, and they offer some courses.
Yeah.
One of the courses that they offer is Revenue Architecture. If you don't know it, go check it out. It's a good resource. And there's this dynamic around risk to the buyer and risk to the company in sort of any type of transaction. And when the risk to the buyer is really, really low and the sales cycle is really, really short, and they're able to try and use that solution quickly, and there's higher volume associated with that buying process, right? You're likely going to be more in a PLG, a prosumer, more of a very heavy inbound type of motion. And when that risk to the buyer is quite high, right? And that's characterized by larger investments, larger sales cycles, larger time to impact and implementation cycles, you're likely going to have a more defined and smaller group that you're going to be able to engage with in order to drive to that customer base. And that's going to be more defined by a known audience, and more account-based approaches can happen. Now, I think as we're in this world where we have a lot of data at our fingertips, and we also understand the different types of buying signals associated with organizations, that's converging a bit. And I think we're seeing that even this week here at 6sense, where regardless of how transactional and or enterprise that buying cycle and that sales cycle is, your ability to identify buying groups and your ability to identify people at the organization showing interest in your solutions can be applied to various different go-to-market models. But those are some of the elements that I think organizations should consider. The other really interesting thing, and I see a lot, is that many companies actually have too many go-to-market models in their environment, right? So it's like, oh yeah, like we are going to do PLG and we've got an account-based approach. Well, those two different models actually require different sets of metrics, different types of funnels, different types of resources, different types of skill sets, different types of capabilities. And if you're over investing in multiple go-to-market motions within your organization at the same time, and you don't have the people, the resource, the time, and the capabilities to get it done, you're going to pull yourself very, very thin. And that is where you're going to lose go-to-market fit. Coming back to first part of the conversation in why I even highlighted some of the stats that I did.
Brilliant. This whole conversation, I'm learning so much. I want to backtrack a little bit. You were talking about creating holistic customer and lifecycle journeys. And I want to get in the weeds a little bit because as we think about, you were mentioning the 2 points, activation and integration. What are some tactical plays? Like if we take this theory and we put it into action, what are some tacticals that some demand gen marketers can take away?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. All right, what part of the life cycle would you like me to hit on? Top of funnel, middle of funnel, customer marketing? Actually, you know what? Let's take customer marketing. And the reason why I'm going to take customer marketing is because I think we could all guess the number one investment that we found in the state of HubSpot. So the number one investment of revenue leaders across all groups. So sales, marketing, customer success, revenue operations, across 1,600 people is how many people we surveyed at the gold standard of market research, was AI. And that was 10% higher than the next investment. But guess what the next investment was?
Customers.
Customer marketing. Like, oh my gosh, how awesome is that, right? So revenue leaders are focused on, so the metrics that matter, they ranked profitability, net revenue retention, sales opportunity creation, right? As like their top metrics. Customer marketing was number 2. Guess what the top metric was by marketers? So that, like what I just rattled off was sales, customer success, and revenue ops. Revenue was profitability, net revenue retention, and sales opportunity creation. Guess what the number one metric marketers ranked? Guess.
Oh, I don't know.
Come on, give me a guess.
Oh. Something about retention.
MQLs.
Oh no.
Come on, marketers.
Oh no.
Like, let's go. We need alignment around our go-to-market, and we need alignment around the metrics that matter. All right, so that brings me back. So the whole point of telling this is number 2 investment, customer marketing, and generally, apart from our MQL friends, Kerry Cunningham is somewhere in this building, like his ears twitched just now. But generally speaking, are focused on net revenue retention and profitability and sort of the characteristics of durable growth, right? Okay, so let's take customer marketing, for example. Let's say you have a cross-sell or upsell or an expansion motion at your company. How can you not identify certain behaviors within that account, right? Certain behaviors within their usage of the product, or certain behaviors in which they're having conversations with the customer success team that you can operationalize in your CRM, right? Or that you can feed through into your CRM. And then is there certain types of customer marketing programs and activities that you just naturally have that are going to bring people back to your site, right? And how can you use that activity and that behavior combined with, right, third party intent and other signals to identify that those groups within your customer base might be interested in the solutions and the capabilities that some of your other product sets offer, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so now you've got a target account group within your customer base. Okay, so then how can we not create workshops that are very specific to that capability, and how can we not create really strong one-to-one invitations to these workshops where we can connect our customers together and then fuel the conversation so that they can actually learn from each other and then ultimately, hopefully, be inspired to invest further so that you can deliver more value to them, right? So that's just one specific example where you're taking CRM data, you're taking account-based approaches to bubble up a certain cohort of customers, and this is where I think this is really important in the age of AI. How can you bring those people together to form a community that allow them to see how they can use the capabilities at their disposal to allow them to achieve their goals? And I've seen this work in various different forms. Some organizations try to facilitate that through customer advisory boards, user groups, ongoing workshops. And it could just be an ongoing customer newsletter that's really good and written to deliver value to your customer base, but you're doing so in a way that's itemized and personalized and tailored to the signals in which those customers are showing.
Yeah, I love that approach. Thank you for sharing that and getting into the weeds. We have time for one more question, and this one's going to be a little more on the light, funny side, if you will.
Oh boy.
There is a trend right now on LinkedIn about demand gen being dead. Is it the latest trend of the bubble that's being popped? Curious on your 2 cents.
Hold up.
I wish you guys could see his eyes right now.
What?
Everyone's saying that demand gen was a trend and it's fizzling out and it's no longer. Now, the people that I have spoken to are like, oh, those just marketers trying to rename something, because if demand gen goes away, all of us essentially don't have a job. So I want to take this opportunity, since I'm meeting with so many more smarter people than me, to just pulse check and just ask, like, do you think that's true? Do you think it was a shiny object and the bubble is popping? Do you think it's just our way of renaming something for the sake of staying relevant? Give it to me straight.
All right, by the way, you just asked the person who stood in front of probably 2,500 people a week and a half ago and asked the rhetorical question, is inbound dead? Which, by the way, it's probably more alive than ever. It's just the tactics and the strategies that we are applying to it have changed because of the tech capabilities that we have, AI, the whole gamut. Can I ask one question before I answer?
Yeah.
How do we define demand gen in that context of it being dead?
Here we go. So really, if you ask 20 different people, I feel like you'll get 20 different definitions. And there's multiple people who have defined demand generation, right? Essentially, it's an omni-channel approach, taking the customer first and reverse engineering a account strategy that is friction-free and a holistic approach that is aligned with business goals.
Okay. All right. So I think you could call it demand gen. You can call it performance marketing. You could call it, oh my gosh, let's just talk about the term growth marketing for a second, right? Like, we could spend the next hour talking about unpicking that trend. Call it whatever you want. I think the thing that I wake up doing, and by the way, I'm a CRO, right? And you can kind of tell I bleed demand gen, and this is what I think about all day long. But if you are a human that literally wakes up every day and you are thinking about, how can I align the people, the process, the data, the technology, and how can I partner with really smart people in my organization to understand, what is the pain, what is the challenges of our customers? What can we do with our products and our solutions to help them get a raise, save them time so they could spend more time with their families and invest in their hobbies? What can we do to educate and inspire to people question a status quo that might not make them the most engaged at work, so that they actually like waking up and going to work and working with either technologies or tools or whatever your product develops in order to create joy for that end customer. And then you're working to create the right messaging, the right content that inspires and educates and entertains, and then getting that into the channels and the watering holes in which they go to learn, right? Know your audience, know where they go to do their research. Is it LinkedIn? Is it Reddit? Is it a publication that they go to? Is it a Slack channel that they actually all share and, there's 1,500 people in there conversating every day. You don't even know about it, right? Where do they go to learn? And get that inspiring content there for those people, and then work to listen and nurture and help them to question the status quo so that they can take advantage of all of those things I just talked about. If you're doing that every single day, I don't care what you call it, but then what's the point, right? That's what we're all in demand gen for. That's what we're all in marketing for. And I think that's the beauty of what we do. Yeah, we use different tools and tactics, and sometimes we create personalization and we show up in places and people are like, oh my gosh, how'd they use cookie data in order to do that, et cetera, right? At the end of the day. But if you genuinely are taking the approach that I just described, then likely you're genuinely helping that human. I think another thing is like B2B versus B2C versus ABM versus PLG, like throw the acronym at it. At the end of the day, we are helping humans to do work, right? And if you're creating the assets, you're getting it in front of them, and you're helping them learn, regardless of whether they buy your product or not, you're doing good stuff. So in that context, no, demand gen's not dead. It will never die. And I think every demand gen marketer out there should be proud of what they're doing.
Amen.
And should understand that they're helping their community to achieve their respective goals.
I love that. Mic drop. That's a great way to end this episode. Jonathan, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me. This has been an absolutely phenomenal conversation.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Demand Gen Made Simple show. If you found value in today's episode, please consider leaving a review, as it really helps me reach more people just like you. And make sure to subscribe so you can be notified when the next episode drops. Thank you, and see you next time.